Good evening, I'm Amelia Lee. We are learning more about the deadly attack overnight in New Orleans' famed French Quarter. 10 people were killed and 35 more were injured when police say a truck rammed into the crowd filled with people celebrating the new year. As Katie Wise reports from New Orleans, authorities have identified the suspect.
The FBI is investigating the New Year's Day attack in New Orleans as an act of terrorism.
This is not just an act of terrorism. This is evil.
The FBI has identified the attacker as 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, a U.S. citizen from Texas. A U.S. official confirms to CBS News he had previously served in the U.S. military.
We do not believe that Jabbar was solely responsible. We are aggressively running down every lead, including those of his known associates.
Authorities say he plowed a truck through a crowd on the city's iconic Bourbon Street shortly after 3 a.m. local time, then got into a firefight with police and was killed.
We were in the middle of the road and managed to run off the road onto the sidewalk and into the doorway of a building for cover.
Jim Maurer was visiting from Iowa. He said after the gunfire stopped, he tried to help the victims.
People we came across were unfortunately deceased.
The FBI says an ISIS flag was located in the truck, as were weapons and other potential explosive devices. Law enforcement also identified possible IEDs located in the French Quarter.
The mission now is to facilitate, support, and coordinate safety procedures to keep our residents and our visitors safe.
Police say 2 police officers who were shot during the gunfight are in stable condition. Katie Weiss, CBS News, New Orleans.
The incident happened hours before the Sugar Bowl was scheduled to kick off in the city's Superdome. The quarterfinal college football game between Notre Dame and the University of Georgia has now been postponed until Thursday. With that recent attack in New Orleans, law enforcement personnel here in Kentucky are sharing how they keep folks safe during large events. Richmond Police Chief Rodney Richardson says each time the city hosts a large event, first responders take months to prepare for the worst. Richardson shares some safety tips that we can all use when we are at open events.
You just got to make sure that you're standing in a safe area. You always got to be in a location where you can escape very quickly. Know where you are at all times also. You know, you see a lot of people that don't know where their vehicle is after they park, or they're not sure what street they're on in case an emergency happens. Even letting somebody know where you are would be a good start.
Richardson adds he hopes situations like this does not deter people from going out and having a good time. It's just something public safety always has to plan and be prepared for.
Well, as advertised, much cooler today as compared to the past several days, as right now we're seeing temperatures hovering around freezing. We're at 32 in Hazard, 31 Jackson, Boonville's at 32, 34 is the current temperature in Manchester. If you want to look at some of the warm spots, if you will, that would be Harlan, Jonesville, and Jacksboro, where we're seeing that temperature of 36 degrees. Much cooler now as compared to 24 hours ago. We're between 10 to 18 degrees cooler depending on your location, and the cooling trend will continue as we go throughout the next several days. We'll hover in the upper 30s and low 40s again tomorrow, and then we start to drop as we go throughout the weekend. Seeing a few little renegade snow showers on live pinpoint Doppler radar. Otherwise, we're staying mainly clear across the area. Tonight, we'll see temperatures dropping into the low to mid 20s, I should say. We'll see temperatures in the mid 30s by 10 p.m. 31 as we go into the 7 o'clock time frame. And I want to point your attention to this number right here. See that 27? That low end is what our high end is going to look like this time next week, and we'll talk about that in the first alert forecast in a few minutes. Amelia.
All right, Eric, thank you. New Year's means thousands of new laws are on the books in the 50 states. This year, millions of minimum wage workers are getting a raise, and several states took aim at gun laws. CBS's Bradley Blackburn reports from New York.
This new year, there will be more cash in the pockets of minimum wage workers. 21 states are increasing the minimum wage beginning January 1st. Washington State leads the nation at $16.66 an hour.
Lives have changed. A lot of stuff has changed. Cost of everything is going up.
In Florida, children under 14 are banned from having social media accounts, and 14 and 15-year-olds can only use social platforms if their parents approve. The law is not being enforced right now because of a pending lawsuit.
It's not just about the law in effect. It's also about kind of an education campaign saying to parents that there are some issues with minors and social media.
California is cracking down on retail theft with more than a half dozen new laws. One increases jail time for large-scale smash and grabs.
I think if there is a punishment for the stuff they've been doing, everybody, they're going to stop doing it, you know.
California is also one of several states enacting more gun safety legislation, while New Hampshire is bolstering gun rights with NRA-backed privacy protections that prohibit the use of specific merchant category codes that could link a gun purchase to a credit card.
And a first-in-the-nation law here in New York, the state is offering 20 hours of paid leave a year for prenatal care, for things like ultrasounds or even fertility treatments.
Chickens in Colorado are feeling the wind in their feathers. Producers with more than 3,000 hens are required to provide a cage-free environment for the birds, and all eggs sold in the state must come from a cage-free facility.
It aims to curb predatory pricing.
And you may remember the Ticketmaster meltdown over Taylor Swift concerts. Well, a new law in Minnesota requires all-in pricing, which lets buyers know every fee up front. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Washington, D.C. now has a cashless retail prohibition, meaning customers have to be able to pay with cash and cannot be charged more for doing so. And a more unusual law in Illinois makes it easier to donate deer meat. President-elect Donald Trump has been following the developments in New Orleans and responding on social media. This comes as he is also working to help his choice to be the next Speaker of the House. Trump has endorsed Johnson to retain the Speaker's gavel when the new Congress convenes on Friday. The president-elect believes Johnson will win the election, but concedes there is work to be done.
He's the one that can win right now. People like him. Almost everybody likes him. Others are very good too, but they have 30 or 40 people that don't like him, so that's pretty tough.
Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie is one of the House Republicans who says he will not vote for Johnson, and others say they are unsure. Trump says he will be calling some of the holdouts to urge them to support the Speaker. Funeral plans are being completed for the late President Jimmy Carter, who will be honored with ceremonies spanning more than a week. Starting this weekend, people can pay their respects at the Carter Presidential Center in Atlanta. On Tuesday, Carter's remains will be flown to Washington, where he will lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda. Preparations for the late president's funeral started not long after he was sworn in as president in 1977.
State funeral is our way, our nation's way, of rendering its last honor to the commander-in-chief. And the military takes it very serious, of course, because it's a no-fail mission. Probably embodies maybe 600-700 people. So you're pulling that many people offline every 3 months in order to make sure that when the day comes, that we're ready for that.
President Biden has declared January 9th the National Day of Mourning. The nation's 39th president will eventually be laid to rest in his hometown of Plains, Georgia. Russian natural gas exports via Soviet-era pipelines running through Ukraine to Europe were halted in the early hours of Wednesday. A transit deal expired and warring Moscow and Kyiv failed to reach an agreement to continue the flows. The stoppage of gas flows was expected amid the war, which started in February 2022. Ukraine has been adamant it would not extend the 5-year gas transit deal amid the military conflict.